What's up, long players? Welcome to the Long Play Listening Party, the show where we go deep on local music, writing, recording, inspiration, gear, and whatever else sounds good to us. I'm Howie Howard from Mr. Furious Records. We've got Royce, the Wizard Diamond, in the house tonight. What's going on, my friend?
I'm doing well. Everything's great.
Fantastic. Nate Holt, Strawley's Music. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good tonight. How are you feeling?
Pretty good tonight. I am pretty good as well. And we have guest Mark Manning. You may know Mark from his radio work with KKFI. You may know him as an actor. You may know him from his gardening stuff. But tonight he's going to share some of his favorite music, favorite picks of the year so far, and maybe some stories. And we'll just see where this goes. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for asking me to be here.
I'm good. Welcome to the Long Play Listening Party. Mm-hmm. I got it. So radio, acting, all this stuff. I know you as the smiling face that greets me on every local artist Bandcamp page. You beat me to almost every single one, and I go to a lot of them. And you're almost always there smiling back at me when I get there. How do you just hang out on the Lawrence and Kansas City Bandcamp tags, or how do you get there?
I because of the nature of the radio show, I'm always looking for new releases. And then last year, I started trying to track every new release. But I've been buying music from Bandcamp for quite a while. I like the way that they offer music up. I like the way that they offer choices and files, and also give information about production and mastering and who's all involved in the music and lyrics also. And I like that they have the Bandcamp Fridays when the artists get all of the money from their music. So I buy a lot of music through Bandcamp if I can. But I also find music in other places too. As you know, it's all over the place. I tend to like to try to support the local music community by purchasing their music if I can. It can get expensive to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
I don't have a lot of money, but I do what I can. So yeah, my face is on there a lot, apparently. but it's kind of a cool thing about Bandcamp. You can.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's super cool.
You can look at other people's libraries and things like that.
Yeah, I think so. They just introduced a streaming option where you can stream your purchases, and I think you can randomize that too, so you can have a playlist. So, hopefully they'll start getting more user friendly, and people will want to be on there. It's I like it, but it is I just think of people that I work with, or Amber or somebody. They use it, but it's like it's just different than other streaming services. But I agree with everything you're saying about it, and why that is a good place to find music, and especially to buy music that you like.
I know there's a big movement in the music world to rent music out to people now instead of selling music, but
right.
You sell it to people and then they buy it one time. But if you rent it to people, you keep renting to people. I'm not a big fan of that myself. I understand why people like it, but for me personally, I'm not a big. I don't go to Spotify, which is hard because so many people now, almost everybody, that's where they put their music, but I don't use that as a source, so that makes it a little bit harder for me sometimes to track down music. And I kind of feel the same way about Apple Music as I do about Spotify, but I do have a lot of music in iTunes, and I kind of changed the way I organize music because I'm kind of a analog person in my head, the way I work. But yeah, trying to track down, like last year, in a normal year, we would have maybe 200 to 250 new releases for artists in the Kansas City, Lawrence area. But last year, my list was over 600
Wow.
EPs, singles, and that, I mean, I'm just one person. There's no central clearinghouse, this kind of thing. So I'm sure there's hundreds more out there that we don't even know about. And I compare lists with Michelle Bacon and Chris Agarian at the Bridge. They get a lot of music sent to them there. We get music sent to us at the radio at KKFI also. But not as much. So I'm always trying to, I look at my list, I look at their list, and we kind of add our stuff together in the end. But this year, 1/3 of the way into the year, I've already tracked 250 local.
Wow.
Man, that is but that sounds like almost 800 for the year.
We're on track. We're on track to doing what we did. I guess we're on track to doing what we did last year. I know that COVID had a lot to do with that. Because when people couldn't go on the road, everybody went into the studio and started working on all kinds of solo projects and all kinds of different projects, and so we're getting a lot of music. And now people are recording music in their bedroom and all over the place. So it's tracking it all down is kind of a crazy thing to do in a weird, and you know what I mean? It's wild because everybody does it differently. All the artists do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and there's no keeping up anymore, right? Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you felt like you could sort of stay on top of maybe multiple genres even and pretty much have the pulse. Now, and it's taken my mind a while to flip around to this too, but like now it's really, I think about discovery, like you said, and just finding whatever source of discovery works for you as an individual, right? And you've got kind of an outsized role in that, but I don't think it's like fundamentally different than what anybody's doing, which is just what's my appetite for new music and how can I best satisfy it, and finding the joy in that versus, because there's no way to keep up anymore.
You're right. I somehow, when I first started doing the radio show at KKFI, I was asked to do this show in this time slot. The concept that the station had for this time slot was mix it up show where we get to play all genre and all the different genre that's on KKFI, whether it be reggae, blues, jazz, world, women's, rock, hip hop, all of it. Mix it all up and play it all. And the people that end up doing those shows in those time slots have ended up making them more of genre specific. I've always tried to stay true to the mix it up idea. I really like that, and I think that's how people really listen to music ultimately, I hope.
Yeah.
And you know, and then also sort of made a commitment in the first, you know, after doing the show for a couple of years, the local music community started coming on the radio show and saying, can we come on and talk about this benefit we're doing? Can we come on and talk about a new album? I'm like, okay, I'll have to rearrange my playlist. But at first I was like, this is interrupting what I want to do. And I realized, no, this is where I need to go with the show, because the show needs to have a validity. It needs to mean something to people. It can't just be me playing my favorite songs that I don't get to hear on the radio all the time. So I sort of made the commitment to doing local artists. A really good friend of mine, Ann Winter, who owned and operated Recycle Sounds Records on Main Street.
Okay, yeah.
She's like a hero of mine and a big mentor. And she moved to Kansas City the same time I moved to Kansas City. We both moved from Nebraska. And she opened up a record store. And when I first moved to Kansas City, I worked for about 3 years at the Unicorn Theater, just about a block down the street. And I got to know Ann. And if you ever knew her, she's the kind of person that she can come into your life and change your life, you know? And through my work in theater and in performance art, I collaborated with her on an event that she did every year called Culture Under Fire. In the early 90s, we were having the culture wars that we're seeing today. were really crazy and very heated up in that time period. There was a lot going on with ACT UP and AIDS activism and equality issues and civil rights issues. And she, being a record store owner, was kind of on the front line of censorship. And friends of hers that ran video stores and bookstores all gathered together and created the New York Kansas City Coalition Against Censorship. And we did this big 2-week festival every year. And we brought performance art and brought bands and speakers and all these great things. And she was one of the people that helped start KKFI from the very beginning. She was the first person to do a punk rock radio show in Kansas City called Little Orphan Annie. And
nice.
Influenced so many, like Billy Smith and Nathan Roosh and so many people in the music community. Little kids listening to her punk show, and then they would run to her record store and buy those records that she played. And she like influenced me in a huge way. Like had me stage manage huge events that she was doing, or time she came into my house, threw me in her van, and took me to Lollapalooza and threw me up. Threw me up at the spoken word tent and says, "You gotta go do this," you know, and anyway, she died in 2009, and I kind of it was a huge loss for the whole music community. She took her life, and it was so tragic. And what happened was hundreds of people were touched by her in the same way I was. You know, hundreds of people had the same experience where she like pushed them to do something they might have not ever done, and she was a big influence to me on having a radio show. After she died, I'm like, I have to do just a little bit I have to take on a little bit of what Ann did. Like, if all of us do a little bit of what Ann did, can keep that good vibration going, because she helped so many bands, you know, so much of the music community like loved her for what she did to help them. So I tried to make the radio show more of a resource for the local music world, and just open it up and invite everybody on whenever they wanted to come on. And that changed the show a lot, and it changed my perspective, because I didn't know much about the music community. I was really from theater. I didn't really know what was happening in the music world. I got a whole education through the radio show, multi-genre. And anyway, I think I'm going overboard on your answer here, aren't I?
No. There's so many things that we're thinking, that I was thinking of, you know, wanting to ask about everything you're talking about. I guess, you know, just what you're just talking about, what you're doing for bands. You know, I can say that when I came on to talk to you, it felt like you knew with my resume almost better than I knew it. And you know, and really, but that's I you know, that was such a I felt that was so cool. That's such a cool feeling to know that someone has, you know, learned that about you, and you know, I feel that you do that for everybody, and so well, you do, I think,
I can
and
attest.
it just and so I guess both of us are just kind of firsthand accounts of the value that you are bringing, and what makes the show, I guess, such a good show, and
inspiring.
What's made it has made it stick around for so long, because it's people respond to it, people listen to it, they want to interact with the show, with you, and it's a really good resource, obviously, to hear good music, find good music, and so I guess to that point, it's I guess I wanted to say that to that point, but you know, there's so much that you have done, you know, as you've done this show, but leading up to you doing this show, that, you know, I don't know, you know, how we get into all of that, but you talked about coming up in theater, and I guess the obvious thing to point out is the Big Bang Buffet, which you did for what it looks like 15 years or so.
Yeah. All of the creative
was Anne an influence on that?
It was part of it. I mean, we did a Culture Under Fire show every year where we tried to push the envelope of the idea of censorship and what is censorship, and Anne helped feed that and support that. One time we did a Big Bang Buffet show down at the Hobbs building after one of the very first Fridays, and everybody funneled into the Hobbs, and we had a huge audience, all these performance artists and poets and bands. And Anne's like, what if Iris DeMent came and sang 3 songs in a show? And I'm like, hey, why not? Iris is this Grammy-nominated critically acclaimed folk singer who become friends with Anne through the record store. I had known Iris too, and was becoming friends with her also, but he came and performed, and he went on right after this really crazy performance art piece, and then right before another piece where a man totally stripped nude, and she's like, I went on before a stripper, it was like a big story for her. But Anne was a part of all of that. That Big Bang Buffet thing really sprung from a restaurant that I worked at, because if you do theater, you also work in restaurants, and you have to pay the bills. And a friend of mine was involved with the theater.
Or music.
Music, yeah. A lot of people who are in the music world are bartenders or waiters also, and so we kind of relate that way. But there's a restaurant on West 39th Street called Cafe Lulu, and we created a Monday night show there. It wasn't technically an open mic. We actually planned out the show and had a program that we printed and handed out to the audience, and had a list of different performers, but we really mixed it up with the original idea was for people to read from their poetry or from a book they were writing. The show is called The Spoken Word. Performance artists kind of took over the show, and a whole bunch of us found our community in that place. We thought we were the only weirdo in town, and we realized that there was 50 of us, all write skits and write plays and deal with subject matter that wasn't really being done in theaters and was kind of on the edge. And that's where Big Bang Buffet came from. It came from that restaurant and that show, and we ended up creating shows that we produced all over the Kansas City a number of years. And really all of the energy that I used to put into Big Bang Buffet, that's kind of now being funneled into the radio show. And there's a real similar spirit of trying to include this whole idea that if you create a venue, make that venue available to hundreds of other people, you also can use that venue. But the more people that are using it, the more successful, the more sustaining it can be, and the more nurturing, fertile, because people end up collaborating and working together and learning from each other. And just like you, Nate, I didn't know about you other than the fact that you kept putting out a new single every month last year. I'm like, who is this guy? But then when I start digging underneath the surface of who you are, I discover that you're in 5 bands, that you produce, that you engineer, that you've been a part of a whole community for a long time. And everybody that know you is crazy, but that's part of the whole music community. There's so many stories.
There is, and it is hard to keep track of things. I mean, and then there's
all those stories deserve to be told. Our audience at KKFI, I'm trying to keep radio alive in a way and make our radio station viable, and we should be the radio station that tells the stories of the Kansas City Lawrence area music community. We should be the place that tells all those stories on a regular basis, continually, because they're all really great stories. And so when you came on the radio show, I want to put you in context the audience so they can immediately figure out what you're about, what you're working on, and what you're passionate about, and they can hear your music, and because we were all freaking out with Kadesh Flow putting out 19 singles last year, and I'm like, who's doing that? And all of a sudden, you're like putting out 13 singles last year, and now I'm singing. A lot of people are doing that this year.
Well, and I mean, part of that is just the nature of creating music now. It's not as the obstacles to actually making something that sounds good and you can present to people. It's not very there's not a lot of obstacle to do that anymore. So it makes sense that people are taking advantage of that, and just to be able to create and just push things out.
And you also have that collaborative nature in your work, which is really common in the Kansas City Lawrence community. When you talk to a musician in Kansas City Lawrence, 9 times out of 10 they're a collaborator. Music is such a collaborative art form, like theater. But we have a beautiful thing going in Kansas City Lawrence because it crosses over genre. It crosses over culture. The collaboration of people. People want to collaborate with different artists and different music. And I mean, like 2 weeks ago, you were on stage with a bunch of rock and rollers doing ABBA music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a perfect example of like that kind of collaboration that happens in a community. And those events like that just foster more collaboration because all those people may not have had a chance to work together on stage before in certain circumstances. And it makes for other opportunities down the road.
Well, and you bring that up, like, at the Lawrence Art Center, they put on some really cool events. I was part of they put on Pulp Fiction, and it brought in, the theater elements and then the music. And when I was in high school, I was, part of the band and was in the pit for the theater performances, and it kind of just brought back those memories and just the whole, just connecting with people and for like, to present, this piece of, art or production, it's so much fun to do.
Definitely. I appreciate it. I really love all the music that you put out this year. You put out a nice package for us this year, really beautiful package. And
Thank you.
Following all the singles that came out last year, I was really interested in every one of them. And like, for example, when Royce came on the radio show to talk about a completely different musical project, we were able to play you with this song that you collaborated with Royce on the radio that day. Just to tip our hat to Royce also. And
yes.
But that's part of the part of what I love about the spirit of collaboration that happens in the community. Like Royce was on talking about Clint's album that time, I think.
Mm-hmm. The Other Side of the Mountain, I think is what it's called.
Right.
Yeah. I had engineered that was a record that he did during COVID. And he brought it to me, and it was like I don't know, was that rock or, it was a lot of guitars, you know what I mean? It was just like something different than I had really worked with before. So it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Maybe that's a way into a song. Is there on our list of songs? We have a list of songs to share with you listeners. We're probably not going to get through them all, but maybe can we pick a collaboration? Maybe kind of going with that theme. What do we have? What do we have available?
Well, we have I think 3 featuring songs that have a feature on them here on our playlist, and then I got another bot that could probably find stuff that we don't have. So, I gave you that list earlier, but I don't know.
There's the Joe Black song that I put this on the list because not a lot of people are playing this music on the radio. I don't know why, but Joe Black is part of a local production company called Jetpack Productions, and it's Joseph or JET are the initials of the people involved in that company. Joe Black and Stephanie Effie El Toro. I don't know if you've heard of Effie, but she's a solo female artist. And then Timo Gutu, who is getting ready to leave Kansas City, but he's an amazing guitar player who plays with lots of different folk. And they started this production company. And Joe Black is originally out of Kansas City, Kansas area, like the Quindaro area. And semi-professional basketball and college basketball in his career. He's been involved with Grammy-nominated productions of music by Jill Scott and Diana Ross and Ariana Grande. He puts all of this on his resume as Grammy-nominated production work that he's done. Not sure the specifics of that. But I met him when I had Effie on the show. She came on the radio to talk about her album Curve
Your
Enthusiasm. We're actually going to go listen to a listening party next week in Overland Park. I can't Diva or something like that. I should just look it up. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mark, but I'm excited. I think Royce is going to come with me and with Amber.
That might be a good one to play. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking that Joe Black, he was one person that didn't get back to me, giving me permission. But I don't know if he's might be busy right now. But that's an example of a collaborative work. I think he features Wanted J as the voice on the track, and I'm not sure who Wanted J is.
Oh yeah, here, okay.
Well, while we're doing that, I will tell you, Mark, I appreciate you finding all that new music because it makes it easier for me to listen to local artists.
Yeah, I feel like our community doesn't even know the depth of the music community that we live in. You know, it's so it's really a beautiful thing, and it's growing all the time and evolving all the time.
Follow me.
I feel like Effie is involved in this track somehow too, because I recognize her voice.
I'm looking forward to. It's Diva Audio is where the listening party is.
Okay. Oh yeah, is Patrick Spray involved with that?
I believe so. I think Cindercut is putting it on. Yeah.
He started doing these special listening parties, I think, about a year ago, and kind of fun to do that.
I mean, I appreciate what he's doing. He's doing it quite a bit. I mean, they're always there's always something going up, and they're involved in. It seems like so. I think it's great.
Patrick is a really good friend of mine, and he used to be a teacher at Academy Lafayette High School.
Okay.
And a lot of Kansas City rock and rollers have sent their kids to that school. And his best friend is Jim Andrews of Andrews McMill Publishing, which is located downtown, and they're an international publishing syndicate that handle all of the publishing rights for like Doonesbury and multiple cartoons and columnists, and then they publish books also and cartoons and cards also. But my friend Marion Merritt, who runs Records with Merritt, Jim started becoming a customer at her record store, coming in and buying records, and he buys a lot of records, comes in there, and anyway, he and Marion were having a conversation about Howie thought maybe he was going through a midlife crisis and wanted to start a record label. And Marion's like, do it! Start a record label! And so he did. And I remember he took Marion and I out for lunch a couple times before all this took off. They're like, well, we don't really know much about the music community. Who should we check out? And the first person that we had him go see was Kelvin, or like, go see Kelvin Arsenia if you want to a really original Kansas City artist who is like on the verge of like maybe making it big. And so he was the first artist that they signed to their label. And we felt Mary and I kind of felt like, hey, we helped get a Calvin signed to a label. And they're an example of a record label that I don't know we have a parallel to, because what they were able to give the artist, I'm not sure how many record labels can do that, but Jim has he has resources, and Patrick does all the work for the label. He is amazing, and in a matter of
he seems like he stays really busy.
He went from really not knowing anything about the music community to knowing everybody, and they started a podcast also. Yeah, Center Cuts, I think, is what it is, and has done a lot of collaborative work with other artists, and it's kind of been fun to watch them figure out what they're doing and deal with the whole business of music. And they've created vinyl releases for all their artists, which is
it seems like what they're able to do is a lot of the legwork that the artists normally wouldn't have behind them, which is enormously beneficial. It kind of allows the artists to kind of do their thing, and they know someone is out there, like making sure people are like finding out about them or like listening to what they're doing, and so I mean that's really cool to have the ability to do that.
Yeah, they supported Kelvin in his own production of his first album for them, or maybe it was the second. It was called Cantaloupe. But then at the same time they sent him off to LA, and they set up a recording in an LA studio with all the best session musicians that money can buy, and did a whole record called LA Sessions also. And those are the first two Center Cut albums that were released with Kelvin. And then they signed Fritz and released an album with Fritz Hutchison. And then he is since now signed with Manor Records. Record with Manor, which kind of makes sense because Fritz kind of lives in that whole Manor Records, Strawberry Hill musician enclave that's growing over there with all these artists that are kind of moving to KCK. And so the third band that Center Cut signed was the Black Creatures, which I was thrilled about because I found them to be one of the most original bands in Kansas City to come along in a long time, just in the way that they presented their music and how political they were in their music, and that it was hip-hop and soul and jazz and electronic dance music and all these different genres together.
Yeah.
And they had put out an album, and Center Cut took that album and basically remastered it and took care of some sampling issues that they had on the original recording, so they wouldn't have any problems legally, and then re-released that album on vinyl like the year after it was originally released, and then the Pitch named it Album of the Year in 2020. So that was fortunate, and they're
always good.
They're like one of the hardest in show business.
They play so much. They're always playing.
They recently won the Charlotte Street Generative Performance Artist Fellowship, which is like a $10,000 grant to artists that are pushing the edge and creating venue for other artists and helping to build the scene, helping to build the community, which is really what all of us are trying to do. All of you and Patrick and all of us, we're trying to build something here in our community that can be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason for doing the show is just we came up with the idea for the show just, because we thought it would be cool to do, but one of the benefits that I'm finding is being able to sit down and intentionally listen to songs, even though, I mean, we're talking over songs and stuff, but
Sorry about that,
I mean, no. I mean, it's fine. I mean, that's what the show is, but I mean, it's just a chance to, like, okay, focus on this artist, and even though I know I'm missing a whole lot of other things, at least I feel like I'm catching, someone, and then, enjoying their music and able to find out about their music, and it's not just like, oh, let me hear 2 songs from this and this song, this artist and this artist, just so I can say that I've heard that band. Like, it just feels better to do this sort of thing. Speaking of the Black Creatures, though, I was trying to look for.
I think I saw them at Boulevardia, performing in a tent or something like that.
I think they're on the. I'm not sure if they're on the bill for Boulevardia. I think they are for this year. I'm not sure about that.
What song did you have, or did you want to play from them? I thought I saw a song.
I didn't put them on the list.
Okay.
Because they haven't really put out any new music yet this year.
I got you. Yeah, right.
They have an album that's going to come out, and they put out a single from that album late last year called Friends. And tomorrow on the radio show, we're going to play a brand new song that hasn't been played yet.
Oh, cool.
Off the new album which is nice of them to do, because it won't be released until the summertime. And it's a track that Xavier kind of leads, which we haven't heard a lot of those, because normally Jade is doing lead on the vocals. But I didn't put them on this list because I didn't have anything 2022. It's kind of weird how we artificially group these things into years, and
I know.
And I always tell people, put your music out in the early part of the year, and then it can be a new song all year long.
There you go.
When you release this song like at the very end of the year, it's weird how it doesn't have the same lifespan, and it should. And it's just kind of the way. The way that we divide music up, and when you do a new music show, you're always rolling ahead, and it's fun to go back and play. And there's so much good music to play, and so we have to remember to play. Sometimes I feel like I do radio. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, do you do a segment in your show where you try to go back and catch something you may not have caught before, or is it just kind of random, like, like this episode, I want to look at some of these older tracks, or I know you've done shows that are themed different ways.
There's always a reason to do that, like especially if a band has an upcoming show and they want to come on and talk about it. We can play some of their songs. Sometimes I like to pretend that I'm doing a early 80s or late 70s top 40 radio show, but I'm using all local music to do it. Because back in the day, you could listen to heavy metal next to Dolly Parton, next to the Bee Gees, next to, it was like that kind of music was all put together. So sometimes I feel like I do try to do that with local music. But like, for example, tomorrow happens to be 420 on the schedule. So I'm starting the show with the Cypress Hill track, and I got
very appropriate.
I'm also going to do that because they're going to be part of Record Store Day. There's going to be a Cypress Hill release on Record Store Day. Also later in the show, playing a Prince song. It's from an album that's going to be on vinyl through Record Store Day for the first time, the Gold Experience album. and there's a pretty good track from that never got played much on the radio from that album, and so there's usually reason to do that. And if we do a theme show, that can come more into case, because just the new music thing could consume all of the airtime. I only have 2 hours every week. If I had more
Right.
time on the radio, I could even play more stuff, more involved. But hopefully
let's play something now.
Yeah, I've got this. I had this Janabe. Is it Janabe? Is that how you say it? Jnabe.
Oh, Janabi.
Janabi.
Jnabi is Kansas City's Asian rapper. That's how he's billing himself. And he's like you, Nate. He's already put out like 7 singles this year so far. And this is one of the songs. He's collaborating with Julia Reynolds, who also plays with the Lonnie Fisher band, the Funeral.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Solo work too. But this is a pretty good track. This was one of his first singles he put out this year. He's since.
I'm not gonna stop going straight to the top. You can't stop me.
See, 1, 2, 3. He's put out like 6 or 7 singles so far.
Okay, crazy. Janabi. Okay.
Janabi. Yes.
Yeah, I've been paving, driving, need nobody, hell nah. This a movie and you see the plot. Do adversity, I'm winning. I'm confessing all my flaws. No, I've been sinning. I chose my dreams the way I'm living. And you keep throwing stones, but I won't give in. No, I can't back down when it get rough. I can't fall off when I'm on top. Rap about what it was, but
have you had him on your show?
Not yet. I'm gonna ask him to come on. I haven't done that yet, but I've reached out to him and let him know.
You heard it here first. Exclusive.
He's a very ambitious young. I think he might be like 21 or something.
Yeah, it said he started rapping in 2020 or something.
Yeah.
When you haven't gone through
Janabe.
Jnabe.
It's the grind that makes it deserved. Blessings come when you face the curse, and it's always in my head when I wind in my mind. Overcome all these emotions, cause they make me feel bad. I never liked them, they hold me back. No, I'm not average, no, I don't need that. Pat you quack, you make me wanna relapse. You seem whack, do you see that? How's that fucking feedback? I'm not gonna stop going straight to the top. You can't stop me, nobody ever could. I'm not gonna stop, so go on, give it up. I'm not gonna stop.
What do you think?
I like working with vocalists, and so I'm just trying to think of, like if he was,
what could be
like
done?
freaking with the vocals, like I like to, or if you just kind of like, because I'm just like hearing how he recorded and or how I think he recorded them and stuff.
You have that ear, right? Where you can almost decipher how it's produced, right?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm always thinking like.
Get out of my way. Get the fuck out the way.
He was nice enough to send me a radio edit also. We're playing the radio edit tonight, which that'll help get your music played on the radio if you send a radio edit.
No, and I think we've talked about this before on the show. It's like when I'm hearing music, I'm listening to music, and a lot of people listen to lyrics, and I'm trying to focus on that more, but I'm just hearing the music and like, I guess the sonics of the song more when I'm listening initially than other people are, and I still don't know if I should feel weird about that or if that's normal or I'm sure some people are the same way, but
I don't know. I think when you're listening to music, a lot of information's coming at you all at once. So everyone's ear probably goes to something first, Like and it depends on what kind of music I'm listening to, but like if I'm listening to rap music, the first thing I do is zone in on the lyrics and the flow. Like how does that go and how does it ride the beat? Where, if I'm listening to Soundgarden, that's probably, I couldn't even sing the lyrics for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. Some people are music people, some people are lyric people. It's fun to play music on the radio that has no lyrics sometimes too, and mix that up. And we have a lot of that this year in music that's being released.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's an age thing, but I find a lot of the music that I'm listening to now doesn't have lyrics. Like I listen to a lot of instrumental music, a lot more than I used to. I'll just say that.
I guess good to know, Royce. Good to know.
We have the UMKC Conservatory of Music that's continuing to put out musicians into the community who are recording and collaborating and working with other artists, and those jazz musicians are pretty active also. And at KKFI we have some pretty cool jazz programming in the afternoon that's hosted and produced by actual living and breathing jazz musicians who work. That's what they do for a living, is they play music. And
is that Jeff Harshberger's show?
That's one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
There's Monday through Friday professional jazz musicians hosting jazz programs, and Jeff does the Wednesday show.
Okay.
Following me, and Jeff's a great guy. He's amazing bass player, one of the best. And I had a guest on my show who was from Nebraska. I'm from Nebraska originally. So I introduced him to Jeff. I said, "Oh, you are too, Howie?"
Yeah.
Okay, so I introduced Jeff to my friend Les, who's this crazy guy from Crete, Nebraska, who has business cards that say "Have donkey, will travel."
Is that where you're from, Howie?
That's where I'm from.
You're from Crete, Nebraska?
Yeah. So who's the guy again?
His name is Les Vilda. He's from neighboring town of Crete, which is like the Czech capital of Nebraska, Wilbur.
Oh, he's from Wilbur.
From Wilbur.
Yeah.
And he's run for president over and over. And he has this outhouse in the middle of a field that he calls his presidential office. And anyway, he's a real character. He does like the Oregon Trail, and he one time lived in Kansas City, took people up and down the trails of Independence, and he lived in a log cabin, and he smelled horrible because he was living in this cabin in wintertime, burning wood in a stove, and wearing like animal skins for clothing, and so he came to visit us at Doane College, and he almost wanted to throw up in the same room with him because he stunk so bad. But anyway, Les Vilda came to visit me on the radio, and I interviewed him. Then I introduced him to Jeff Harshbarger, and I was like, "Hey, Jeff, Les and I both went to Doane College," and I was like, "Hey, Jeff, Les is from Nebraska," and Jeff Harshbarger was like, "I'm from Nebraska. I was born in Nebraska." And like, "You were? Where were you born?" And he said, "York, Nebraska," and that's my hometown in Nebraska. I was like, "Wait a second. Your dad was Mr. Harshbarger." Jeff Harshbarger's dad was my band director in high school.
Oh, wow.
It's weird how the world, like Howie,
yeah,
which is a small town of 5,000 people in Greene County, Nebraska. Lots of grain elevators and stuff are surrounding it. And
I went to Doane too, Mark. So.
Oh, wow. When did you graduate?
04.
04. Okay. I graduated in 1986.
All right.
from the theater department at Doane. But I loved Doane. It's a beautiful place to go to school.
And a wonderful theater department.
Yeah, really. It was very, very educational. I think when you go to a school like Doane and you work in theater, you end up having to learn how to do everything because it's that kind of a place, All
right, everybody pitch in. The show must go on, kind of.
Exactly.
Vibe.
Show must go on.
Well, I think we probably have time for one more song, and give the listeners a break.
I was gonna I had a Nicotine Mom queued up for some reason.
Okay, sure. How
That'd
can
be
we go
great.
wrong with the creepy jingles, right?
I don't know if you can. And yeah, okay. Here we go. I bought a record. I didn't buy the limited edition. I just bought the regular album. But gosh, Jocelyn's lyrics they're so good. I mean, is she an English major, or am I making that up?
I have no idea.
Definitely, I think she has that literary background. I love her music. I remember the EP they put out. I was just like blown away by the lyrics of the EP.
Yeah.
She was cross-referencing ancient and modern and high-tech and pyramids and just doing all of this stuff with lyrics that I'd never heard before. Doing it all in a 1.5 minute song, you know?
Yeah.
I love how she was on your show and talked about, I think it was on your show that she talked about having ADD, and that's part of why she writes short songs. Is she just attention deficit disorder? It gets bored. It only wants to, after a while, it wants to move on to something else. And I love their music, and I think when you play their music to other people, I'm like, hey, check out this band. Immediately, people are drawn to them.
I like that. I like having, because they have really great changes, and that's enough. You have really great changes. The lyrics are great. You don't, if it lasts a minute and 40 seconds, that's all it needs, because that's what the song is. And I think, what band was it? I think it maybe was Hidden Pictures with Richard Gintout, where he took it a little more of a power pop direction, and the songs were a lot shorter, but they had really cool changes. They were really interesting. You felt like they were longer than they actually were, and so that's why I enjoy Jocelyn's music, the Creepy Jingles music, because I think they kind of do the same thing. They get in, they get out, they make it really cool, really interesting, and they move on.
Yeah, the one of the rules of theater is always leave your audience wanting more, and you want more. When you hear the Creepy Jingles, you want more. You want more of them, and we on the radio show, I pride myself on things like we were the first people to ever play Elvin Arsinia, or we were the first people to ever play Madison Ward and the Mama Bear on the radio,
right?
Or to ever play Shy Boys. We were playing the Shy Boys music way before anybody. When they were called the Iams, they were just the two brothers. They were in a band called Abracadabras with Jocelyn prior to that, and that band had one album. That band put out one album, and it's a brilliant record, and it demonstrates Shy Boys' harmony abilities, but also Jocelyn has those same. I mean, Jocelyn grew up right down the street from the Shy Boys. Those guys, Colin Roush, Colin Roush lived right down the street from her, and they were really good friends growing up. And you can find similarities. I mean, both bands write short songs too. Shy Boys are known for shorter songs. But I love them. I love that harmony that they have. And I think Jocelyn does that with Creepy Jingles. I mean, she knows how to put words together to make you turn your head, and and like for marketing purposes, it's a gift, but just as an artist, these songs are incredibly poetic in their own way. And
yes. And there's some where I'm just like, I have to read them over and over again. I'm like, what? Well, hold on, what?
Oh, and then Jocelyn tells you,
it's great though.
Jocelyn tells you, her biography of, leaving Kansas City, moving to Texas, getting married, getting a divorce, transitioning from male to female, coming back to Kansas City and starting a band. It's like, whoa, wait a second here. What happened when? And then this music. And when you go see them live, it all just fits together. The whole idea of the Creepy Jingles all fit together perfectly. And one of my favorite bands. They really are. I love the Creepy Jingles.
They're really good.
Outstanding. Well, listeners, we're going to leave you wanting a little bit more with Mark Manning. We will be back next week with part 2. Until then, take care. It's been the Long Play Listening Party. Later, everybody.